Just say on air. There we go.
So where's my start button now?
Oh, that, yeah. That's actually the image rather than the, yeah. You have to tap to the thing you're looking for.
Ah, all right.
That's the max button.
No, that's
move that one out of the way.
You can
Yeah.
get rid of that as well, yeah.
There we go. Now
this happened to be exactly the same size.
all righty. I've been staring at a computer screen way too long today. Okay. All right. Well, thanks y'all for coming. We're going to talk about PhantomCSS. Anybody heard of it?
Yeah.
You have? Yeah. And visual regression testing. So how many folks in here have ever pushed something to a live site and then you find that maybe 3 pages deep in that some CSS change that you made, that you unintentionally changed the layout of a screen that you never thought you were going to impact? I know I have. And trying to get around that, you wind up writing 35,000 lines of CSS. So this is a tool that can help you catch some of that. Of course, any testing tool is only as good as the test that you've written for it. So, but this one's actually is a little bit unique because it actually takes visual pictures of various pages on your site. So I am Lisa Ridley. I'm a senior developer and solutions architect at ProMetSource. Just recently joined them about 2 months ago. And that's my email address, and that is my username on Drupal.org. What's regression testing? Well, it's a type of software testing that is designed to uncover bugs or regressions in existing functional and non-functional areas of a system after you make changes. One of the main reasons for regression testing is to determine whether or not changes in one part of the software affects other parts. Kind of sounds like what I'm talking about here. Make a change to the front page and find out I broke the pricing page on a website. So how do you regression test visual components? Well, you bring in a tool like PhantomCSS. And PhantomCSS is a Casper.js plugin for automating visual regression testing. It uses PhantomJS and another JavaScript library called ResembleJS. It's written specifically for testing web apps, live style guides, and responsive layouts. The folks that developed this, there's actually a company that their internal testing team developed this framework for doing visual regression testing before they began migrating over to a Bootstrap-based front-end theme. So they wrote a bunch of visual regression tests and developed this framework to write these tests in before they started that migration, because they wanted their site, they wanted to migrate over to a Bootstrap site so that they could take advantage of all the responsive aspects of Bootstrap, but they wanted their full screen site to look exactly the same as it did in the framework that they had, which was not responsive. So they wrote a bunch of these visual regression tests and used those visual regression tests to determine how successfully they were migrating over to the Bootstrap-based theme by running these tests against their existing site, and then running them against a prototype of their new site, doing actual screenshot comparisons between the two. So how does PhantomCSS work? Well, it takes screenshots. You can take screenshots of entire pages, or you can pick elements within a page and just take a screenshot of those particular elements. And when I talk about elements in a page, it might be your sidebar, it might be the content box, it could be the header, the footer, drop-down menus, just whatever you think that you need, to capture a specific shot of that you want to use as your baseline for comparison. And so basically it takes screenshots before and after changes, and then generates what's called an image diff to help you find the differences between the before and after pictures. And then it provides the ability for you to automate this test so that you can basically kick it off just like you would if anybody came to the Behat session that I covered a couple of months ago. You basically kick it off at the command line just like we did the Behat testing. and it runs through the test suites, takes the snapshots, compares them to a baseline set, and then gives you a set of image diffs where you can see the differences between the before and after.
It appears we're not grabbing the, for some reason, that's our live stream when it's all black. So Jamie says he can hear us.
Alrighty then. We'll try this again.
Try grabbing the actual entire monitor instead of just the app.
Okay. Let's see.
Find the Hangout.
Yeah, tell him
No,
almost. Tell him,
you don't
well,
have to-
I did already. So.
You minimized it. You minimized the window for that, didn't you?
Yeah, I think so.
Well done.
Oh, sorry about that. Tell him I'm so sorry.
That's not the right window.
It's not the
You
right
already
one.
have one open.
There's actually a
Is it
one
another?
of these, isn't
Yeah.
it?
That one?
Yeah,
No.
that might be it. That
This
looks like
one?
it.
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
So go to the share again.
All right.
And try the entire.
Grab the entire screen too.
Screen 2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the screen too. Yeah.
Okay.
Now that's it, that entire screen, and it won't be you when we. Let's have a look.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's
no.
a 20-second delay for rendering.
Okay.
So
All right.
So
Let's see if we
now,
can get
yeah, if
this
you
started
pull your
back
thing up
again.
again, hopefully it should.
You want me to start from the beginning?
No, you can carry on.
Okay.
The
All right. Ask him if he's seeing that now.
well, that's
Nope,
I'm
still-
viewing our live stream.
it's still,
It takes a
it
little
has a
while.
lag,
How much of a lag?
about 20 seconds or so.
Oh, I'm on pause. That doesn't help either. Does it?
Yeah, you'll have to click live now.
Live.
I will or
No,
you
he
will?
will, since he's the viewer.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
So we actually, there we go. Yeah, so we're all good.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Okay, so it takes the screen, let's see, where did I leave off? Takes screenshots of whatever elements or entire pages that you select to grab screenshots and put into your test suite. And then generates these image diffs that shows you where changes are in the before and after picture. It provides the ability to script out the testing so that you can kick it off on a Jenkins server or a continuous integration server. Travis has integration for PhantomJS and PhantomCSS on it. So if you're using Travis instead of a Jenkins build server, then you can use Travis to run these as well. So what do these screenshots look like? Well, that would be what would be considered a baseline image, and this would be the image after changes. You can see the changes there just visually looking at it, but what PhantomCSS will give you is this, and it basically, everything that's in red is where the change happened. So it lets you visually cue in very quickly and see where your image diff is. And also, if you have an image that has a diff, that flags as a failure when you're running your tests. So that helps to give you an indicator of which screens or which screenshots or which elements were impacted by whatever change it is that you made. PhantomCSS has some dependencies. It depends on PhantomJS, which is a headless Qt WebKit browser. It's scriptable with a JavaScript API. Qt WebKit is a WebKit fork back to the original Qt framework. So a lot of the documentation you'll see on PhantomJS says that it's a WebKit based headless browser, but it's not actually. It's a Qt WebKit based browser. And
That's
just
kind of ironic, the next one.
yeah, just a note that 1.9.8 has a regression bug that causes errors with Casper.js. So if you're going to do any PhantomCSS testing for now, use the 1.9.7 release. They're not going to fix it in 1.9.8 because they're already working on PhantomJS 2.0. So they're going to fix it in the 2.0 version, but they're not going to fix it in the 1.9.8. They're not doing any more. They don't consider it a bug, but it's a bug when you plug it in with Casper.js and PhantomCSS. So the other dependency is Casper.js, which is a scripting and testing utility. So this is actually the real meat. PhantomJS just provides you with the headless browser. Casper.js is actually your testing framework. And then PhantomCSS is a plugin for Casper.js. PhantomCSS bundled with that is also ResembleJS, which gives you the image analysis capabilities. That gives you those image diffs with the red indicators on there with the changes. So, this is where I was going. Do I want to do a text-based or do I want to do an image-based dependency slides? You can also use SlammerJS instead of PhantomJS if you want. SlammerJS, PhantomJS is Qt WebKit based. SlammerJS is Gecko based, which is Firefox, and it's not truly headless. So you can it actually has one or two capabilities that PhantomJS doesn't have, in that one of the limitations of PhantomJS is it will not render anything that's Flash based. So if you've got Flash videos, I know, but there are some people that do still use it. So if you've got YouTube is one. When you embed a YouTube video in a website, if you're looking at it,
it's all HTML5 now.
No, not all of it.
They went HTML5 for everything by default.
Well,
like 2 weeks ago.
Did they?
And they're fixing the back
we are talking.
Okay, so and that makes sense, because I actually wrote this test suite and did this preparation for this about a month ago. So so they've done it since
it's literally only just happened. It happened this month. Yeah.
All right. So, but if you've got Flash videos embedded, PhantomJS won't render anything, but SlammerJS is supposed to be able to render them. I haven't gotten SlammerJS to actually run. So it's not as well supported as PhantomJS, so it's not as mature, but there are use cases for one versus the other. And if I ever get SlammerJS to run, I'll let y'all know and we'll do something with it. Other dependencies for testing: if you're going to install it on a Linux server, you're going to need to install font config, and you're going to need to install some fonts, some base fonts, so that since PhantomJS will actually be running on the Linux server headless, it needs some fonts to render font types. So you're going to need to grab some basic fonts. So you need font config and free type, and then you need to get the TTF Deja Vu package to get your true type fonts, so you can get some sans serif and mono fonts installed. If you're going to use SlammerJS instead of PhantomJS, you're going to want to run XVFB so that you can run SlammerJS, because it provides a display emulator, I think is what XVFB does, so that SlammerJS thinks that there's a display available, and it will run. It simulates headless, basically. So skill sets needed to write tests for PhantomCSS: JavaScript. They're all JavaScript based, so very easy to write the tests. I know, roll your eyes. It's actually not bad. And this is pretty much what a test suite looks like. You can get a lot more complex, and some of the tests that I've written are a little more complicated, but that's the gist of a basic test suite. You're going to call Casper and pass it the URL of the web page that you're going to test, and set your viewport size. So you can actually set viewport sizes. You can do you can do mobile browser-sized viewports all the way up to the wide desktop. So if you want to take snapshots at different viewport sizes, you can. And then you basically tell PhantomCSS to grab a screenshot, and you pass it a CSS selector. The second part of that, the image name, is what the file name is going to be that stores the screenshot. Then you tell PhantomCSS to compare all, and that's where it goes through and compares any screenshots to some baseline screenshots that you've taken. And then you tell it that the test is done and to exit. JavaScript objects available to the test scripts. You have the Phantom object, which is your PhantomJS object. So if you go to the PhantomJS documentation site, you can see the various calls that are available. You'll use Phantom to do things like I think you set your viewport size. No, you use Casper. You can use Phantom to do, if you need to pass, if you need to set cookies or save cookies for authentication on the site. If you need to do any authentication, you'll call the Phantom library to do that. Casper.js is going to do all of the operations on your browsers, the clicks, the mouse overs, all of that type. And then PhantomCSS extends Casper to, it basically provides the add-ons that give you the screenshot capabilities and the screenshot comparison.
So the PhantomCSS is mainly for the screenshot thing?
Yes, for the image diffs.
The image diffs. That's basically, it's got one use and that's what it's for.
Pretty much,
Whereas
yeah.
the Phantom's more like trying interactively.
Yeah, what you'll do is you'll write a bunch of your tests using the Casper testing suite. You'll call Phantom on occasion inside that, and that's when you're calling the browser. But then you'll call PhantomCSS to grab your screenshots.
Okay.
Author recommended best practices for PhantomCSS. Name your screenshots.
1, 2,
Yeah.
3.
Yeah. So because if you don't, it will actually name them screenshot 1, screenshot 2, screenshot 3 if you don't provide a name. So if when you're doing the line I have there in bold where I've got image name, actually give it a descriptive name. And then it will tack on numbers at the end of it when you run the test repeatedly. If you give it a descriptor, then it gives you something to go by when you're going back and looking at images. Try not to use complex CSS3 selectors, and you know what I'm talking about, the ones that are 9,000 miles long when you're trying to get really specific. Because it has to parse that and look for it, and it slows the test suite down. So the more you can use ID-based or very specific selectors as opposed to having to select a div inside a list item, inside this, inside that, you're going to do better just from a performance standpoint. PhantomCSS is not going to replace functional testing, but it will let you quickly do some visual testing aspects. Don't try to test all the visuals. I would pick, we've got a client at ProMet where we're having some issues. They're constantly changing their site, and they're constantly sending us, we want to add new pages, and it's got a completely different style, so we're having to go in and do style rules that are specific for that page, and if we're not getting them specific enough, we're constantly impacting other pages. And so what we're doing, and we're having a particular issue with some of these mega menus that they've had us create for the site. So what we're doing is we're writing test suites using PhantomCSS to test the mega menus because we keep breaking the mega menus. So we're writing a set of test suites to actually test all of the different mega menus on the site every time we have to do a theming exercise for them.
As a matter of interest, what are you using for the mega menu, module-wise?
Mini panels.
Okay. I've seen people using mini panels, and we've been doing, we've used the TV mega menu, which was the theme brain guy. It's the mega menu that works nicely with bootstrap style themes.
Yeah.
I just wondered what people were using for it, because I had to put some patches in and all sorts of things.
Yeah, this one's an Omega-3 based theme.
Okay.
So it's a theme that actually is on the verge to need to be updated. But I think the girl we had that actually did the mega menus did that particular exercise for them. Tried to use that to start with, and then it wasn't working for her, so she switched to mini panels.
You got to use the dev version and apply a couple of patches.
Yeah.
It's
according to the author, he says full page screenshots are a bad idea. I actually disagree with him, and this is where I think it's actually useful, because you can quickly get a set of basic test suites in place by taking full page screenshots of all the different pages on your website, and then as you're doing styling changes, you run through and grab another set of screenshots, and when your tests fail, it's because there's a difference, and then you can just look at the difference between the two, and if you need to do a more closer visual inspection, you can, but it will quickly tell you which pages on the site changed. But he said that full page screenshots are a bad idea, because if you change the footer, then I didn't stop sharing anything, because if you change the footer, every page is going to fail. So
I might have done that accidentally.
okay. Some limitations of PhantomCSS. There's no support for Flash. That we talked about that earlier. SlammerJS has a Flash JPEG placeholder image support. PhantomJS doesn't. Flash placeholders show up as undisplayable Flash plugins. And I've actually got on the demo site that I've got set up, there's one of the drop-down menus has a YouTube video embedded in it, so you'll see what I'm talking about. And then you may require installation of additional fonts on your test server if the site's using a very non-standard web font. So if you're using a site that has Japanese or Chinese text, for example, then you're probably going to need to install some of those fonts directly on the web server. If you use Google Fonts, you're in the clear. It may generate false test failures due to spatial aliasing of anti-aliased images. Isn't that a mouthful? And basically what this is very small, minute differences in different machines. So if you did a set of base images on a Mac, and then you run your test on a Linux machine, you may get some spatial differences in those particular images. But if you will run those images, if you will take your baseline images and then run your test on the same machine that generated the baseline images, you kind of eliminate all that.
Do you get the same problem if you, well, never mind, you have a built-in browser?
Yeah.
So that stays constant?
Yes, yeah, the browser stays constant. It's like I said, the differences are mainly when you're talking about generating baseline images and then running the test on different physical machines. This was pointed out by the actual author of PhantomCSS, because he actually had a group and they were taking baseline screenshots and submitting those to a repository, and they were using the shots in the repository for their comparison purposes, and they were running into this anti-alias issue. So on responsive page, this is an issue that I've discovered, and I've actually filed this as a bug with them. On responsive pages that use CSS selectors with JavaScript to adjust the CSS display attribute. So where I ran into this was with menus, where you've got those mobile menus that look completely different from the menus on full page. And when you go down to a mobile viewport is when those menus appear, and you may have those menus hidden when you've got full page display going on. The display attribute is, PhantomJS is still picking it up as display is none. And so it can't find it doesn't physically find the CSS attribute to click, so you can't actually open the menus up. So that's been the biggest limitation that I have found is when you've got some of that, you're looking at a responsive site and you've got changes that are due to changes in the size of the viewport. It shows up as not visible by Casper.js. All right, so let's look at a test site. So the site we're going to look at the front page of a web application. This is a Drupal application. The page, it's got a header, a footer, a navigation menu bar that persists across all the pages on the site. It has a JavaScript-driven mega menu navigation bar that activates on a mouse click event. There's a slider that slides some images across the top of the page. There are 3 pre-content blocks with different content. That has a background color change on mouse over. Then we've got a 2-column content area and a fixed footer. So pretty much here's our header and navigation menus. There's our slider, and you see I've noted that in gray. The slider, because that image is constantly changing, if you were actually wanting to pick the elements out on the page to test, you probably don't want to test the slider because you may have one image up when you do your baseline, and there may be a different image up when you run your test. So it's going to generate a false negative. What you would want to do is if you could stop those image changes and do the individual images if you had some text overlay, then that would probably be one of those elements that you might run the risk of generating some false negatives. The pre-content blocks that I talked about that have the mouse over. And then we've got 2-column content area and a footer. I'm actually going to grab, in doing this test, I'm going to grab the whole page, and then I'm going to grab the header, the nav bar, and then I'm going to open each of the mega menus on the nav bar and snapshot those. I'm going to grab the pre-content block area, the left content column, the right content column, and the footer. Those are all going to be separate shots. The test suite for the test site grabs grabs a screenshot of the home page, grabs a screenshot of the home page with each of the 5 mega menus open, then grabs a specific shot of just the each of the mega menus, the header, the footer, the nav bar, the pre-content blocks area, and then the pre-content blocks with each block in the hover state, so you can see the color change. And then it's going to grab each of the content areas, so it'll be about 20 screenshots in all. And those, we're going to run that and grab our baselines. Then I'm going to make a CSS change, and we're going to run the test again and see the failures. All right. Let's see. I've got a demo site here. If I can find my browser. Yay!
Shrink that and minimize that window is always the best.
All right.
We're warping.
Yeah. Wow. Scotty hit one.
As long as we don't go plaid, we're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredibly hard to drive. There's just enough lag to screw you up, isn't it?
Yeah, so this is, I grabbed this theme off of Theme Forest. Just went and grabbed a $30 theme to do some prep stuff for the mid-camp coming up. So you can see my header at the top, and then there's my menu bar, and here's what I'm talking about when I say the mega menus. So got some pretty,
That's a nice big one.
yeah. That one's the one with the YouTube video embedded in it. See, we've got an about page that's got some images on there. Do you recognize any of those folks? And then there's, I think there's 5, oh, that one went to the blog page. There's 5 of those mega menus in all. There's a contact us page with the Google Maps embedded in it. Let's go back to the home page. Here's our pre-content blocks. We've got a green, an orange, and a pink fuchsia color on mouse over. Then we've got our left and right content areas and our footer. All righty, let's see. I'm gonna get this over here where we can see our tests. I wanna do one thing. Yep, it's not there. All right. Before I run these, let's actually look at some of these actual tests. See if I can blow this up where we can see it. Oh, come on, Komodo, you're supposed to make the text larger, but it's not doing it. All right, can y'all?
Here's where I read that.
Yeah, it's like, can you read that at all?
I'm closest, so.
Yeah. I've been writing and refactoring and kind of polishing this up a bit as I've written some of these tests. So you can see there at the top, I've got the very first line is I'm pulling in PhantomCSS into my the JavaScript script into my my test script here, and then I've got the URL of the site. And I'm running this on a local virtual box, so my URL is phantomcss.dev. And I set my viewport size here, and I'm actually calling it tablet landscape. I'll use that. I'm going to use that when I actually generate my screenshot. If I changed my viewport size, I would change the description up here, and then that way the image shots that get taken will have the viewport description attached to them. So if I grab 5 different viewport sizes, they would each designate, based upon the descriptor that I used here, which viewport those screenshots were for. And then test/homepage is where my images are going to be stored. Any failures are going to be stored in test/homepage/failures. So that's where those image diffs with the red that shows up are going to be found. And this is where I set my error color. By default, PhantomCSS will generate yellow. I have a little bit hard time seeing yellow, so I put red. I've changed the color to red, and you can adjust the RGB colors right there. Error type movement. There's a description on PhantomCSS what that means. Most of the time, you're going to want to keep movement as there's 2 settings you can set there, and then the transparency is basically it fades out the background on the image diffs, so that only the diffs are, the actual diff is of full opacity, and the background gets a little bit transparent, makes it easier to pick up the red. So here we're starting our test, and we're setting our viewport. And then this is another one of those little gotchas that I picked up on. By default, Casper does screenshots with a transparent background. So if you want a white background on your website, you need to set your background color to white. If you're using another background color on your websites, then you just need to set it to whatever your background color is. I've set mine to by default to be white. Here I'm actually building the selectors for the various components on the page that I'm going to be grabbing screenshots of. This right here is I'm calling box selector. These are the mouse over tests that I'm going to be running. And then right down here is where I'm going to be clicking on the mega menus. And if you'll notice, I'm setting all of these in a JavaScript object here, so that I can loop through rather than having to write 500 lines of test code. I can write 100 lines and just loop through all of the objects in the array. And then here's where if I've got my viewport over a certain size, I want to grab the shots of the mega menus because the mobile menus aren't clickable because of the bug that I found. And then here's where I'm kicking off and I'm comparing my screenshots. And here's where I'm indicating that the test is done. And down here are some of the function calls to get the elements by selector, to get the elements by selector list. This is where I'm doing the mouse over effects, and then the mega menu selectors. You'll see I've got some tests, and then I have it flagging if Casper fails for whatever reason to do the screenshot. It actually will flag as a failure because I was having a bit of an issue and I wanted to error code that. And I'll post this if y'all are interested in looking at this. I'll make this code available. I've just been tweaking it as I've had a few minutes here and there between client projects. I've been kind of tweaking and refactoring this code a little bit to make it a little bit more efficient. Because when I first wrote my first set, it was about 450 lines long, and I wanted to make it a little bit more efficient. So I've been doing a bit of refactoring on it. All right, so that's kind of, I mean, you can see there's nothing very complicated there at all in terms of what's been written. All right, to run, once you've got your test suite written to run it, you will specify, you want to call PhantomJS test. And test actually triggers the Casper.js test suite or test application. And then I've got these tests stored in a folder called test. And mine, I've got two versions of it. Homepage 2 is the one that's been refactored. So I'm going to run test / homepage 2.js. The first time through, no, don't tell me that. You can't open test.
Arguments in the
Test.
Well,
/ homepage.js test.
do what?
But the argument's just the one around it looking. Just a guess. That's a very poor error message.
Yeah, it is. I know it's got to have, it's got to have test on it. Oh, I know what it is. Duh. I'm an idiot. It's not PhantomJS, it's Casper.js. Just to show you how long it's been since I've done this. It's been a few weeks. Okay. What it's going to do now is it's going to run through the test suite and generate our base screenshots. And we'll take a quick look at those when it's finished. And when it's finished, you'll see where it's slowing down. I've got some waits in there to wait for those mega menus to open before it grabs the screenshot. I think this whole thing generates about 20 images and it takes it about 30 seconds to run. Now, when we run the test, it'll generate a second set of images, and then it will go and diff those images. And so that one takes a little bit longer. All right, and you'll see the message it gives you there is that this must be the first time you've run this because we didn't find any images to compare to. So what we'll do now is we'll go in and we'll change the CSS, make a slight change to it, and we'll run the test suite again. So, all right. So I'm in this particular case, I want to change my, I want to take one of those mega menus and indent some text just by a little bit. So that's going to be my first initial change. Now I've specifically done a very broad CSS selector here because we're gonna actually change more than just that unintended. You know, but this might be an example of one of those unintended consequences that I was talking about. So I've implemented this change now and saved my CSS. We'll refresh this page. All right, now what I've done is I indented all of the white text just by a little bit, but there's actually been more changes than that, which we'll see when we run this set of test suite again. So now we're going to run it for the second time, exact same command, only this time it will take a little bit longer to run because it's actually going to do the image comparisons and do the diffs, and we'll get some failures here. And a failure in a PhantomCSS test is anytime the two images don't match. So a failure may actually be intentional if you intended to make a change. Remember it taking like this long.
Because we're all watching.
Of course, it's going to crash on me.
Look away, look away. Speed up.
There it goes. Okay, so it screenshotted all the screens, and now it's going through and doing the diffs, and it's spitting up the past messages. And here in a few minutes, we should see some failures come up.
You did save your CSS, right?
I thought I did. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I forgot to save it in this
Does
one.
it take all the screenshots and then compare them?
Yes.
So it's still running for the first part of the test.
No, it's
It
actually
says there's
doing
no changes.
yeah, it's saying no changes. It's actually doing the comparison. Maybe I forgot to save the CSS.
How do you do that? It's been a long time since
If you
used
want
it.
to make them
Fail, change some CSS.
Yeah. So all 20 tests passed.
That's
Maybe did I forget to save it? What did I do?
It's like they're inside my head.
Save it in the right place. How can you tell when it's not saved with Komodo? It's been a while.
Well-
Usually
Oh,
has-
yeah, because the asterisks.
Yeah, I was gonna say it.
Yeah.
Asterisk.
All right, let's uncomment this set. See if we can generate some failures.
You cannot fail.
I saw that.
You
Save,
shall
save,
not
save.
fail.
You cannot fail me.
How many times in life do you have a hard time getting something to fail?
All right,
I
let's
failed to fail.
Stop working.
see if we. Well, you know, I don't. Okay, now I see a little bit of a change. All right. So we'll run that suite again, and we should get some failures this time. If it doesn't fail, I'm just going to close my machine and go home.
It's time to go for a drink.
Yeah, there you go.
Up to
It's going to mean beer clock got here early. It's been that kind of day.
It really has.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's been a while. It's pretty.
Yeah, I had a meeting this afternoon about doing a site audit for a client that had outsourced support services to a company in India. They
Well,
want
there's your problem.
to bring it. Well, they want to bring it back home, and so we're going to do a site audit on them. And And come to find out, Drupal is only about 10% of their whole architecture. They have this whole big, they've got a Tomcat server that runs a web service for their mobile app, and then there's a WordPress site that generates content that feeds into a feed that the Drupal.
It's
site
alive!
consumes. And it's like Drupal is this much of this big audit that we got to do. So please tell me you're going to fail.
Built by,
It's going to pass them all.
the trouble is when you outsource that stuff, if it's like a 6-month project, by the time end of 6 months, you've probably been through 3 complete staff changes. The people that started aren't people that ended. They just whack stuff in. It's all just Frankenstein's monster, Frankenfood kind of stuff.
Alrighty, we're going to fail again.
Right, and the other question is, are you changing the correct one?
That's just what I was thinking. Did I change the right CSS? Let's double check
I
that.
wish I had your luck.
Yeah, when I can make CSS changes and nothing
Everything
fails.
passes.
Yeah,
I
there
can
you
make
go.
my tests fail, no problem.
PhantomCSS makes everything good.
All right. No,
I don't even run that on my stuff.
I look like an idiot.
No, that's
All
It's a good
right.
problem to have.
It is a good problem.
Let's
Simply
make,
can't break this.
let's make sure I'm failing the right
Not often
thing
you
here.
hear that though.
Never.
You're not loading up a different project or something.
Yeah,
If
that's
somebody
what I- that's
says
what I'm
it,
double
then it
checking
fails
right
right like
Yes.
30 seconds after.
That's the magic incantation right there.
My server is
No.
indestructible.
Murphy's Law kicks in immediately.
Okay. This is one
can't be
more place where I may have a gotcha. Let's see.
Immediately hide under the desk.
There, this may be an issue of browser caching.
PhantomCSS actually makes everything pass.
Let's see.
Where do we sign up?
Here, this actually has been posted. QW.QWS. There is no way inside PhantomJS anywhere to clear the browser cache. So sometimes you have to just delete it. And it's in a hidden directory inside your users directory, wherever you're running PhantomJS. So, and it's in a directory called .qws.
That kind of weirded me there for a second. The RF share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
yeah.
kind of hoping you were in like user share or someplace
No,
like
no,
that.
no, I was inside
Would that be
the .qws, which is where PhantomJS caches
That would be
images.
bad.
I was probably running a
My
bunch of tests the
application
last
worked.
time I did this, and it's built up a cache of images. So we'll try that again. Sites. CSS.dev. CSS test. All right. I get for not running through this at home before I came.
Told you it was a guinea pig.
Uh-huh.
Five demos.
Oh, I know what it is. I'm running the wrong damn test suite. Remember all that refactoring I told you I'd been doing?
If only I looked at the commando
Mhm.
times two.
Yeah, so now, since I've run the wrong test suite, I'm going to get a whole new set of images here. So
I guess you're, yeah. We're going to have to take the
we're going to have
changes
to take
out.
these changes out. Yeah.
Oh, so now this is the new start.
Mhm.
Okay.
We were just kidding before.
Yeah, if I take these CSS changes out and it doesn't fail this time, we really
We
are
will
gonna
go have
do
a
this.
beer.
And we'll come do this another day. I'm gonna let that, while that finishes, I'm gonna go ahead and go in here and tweak the CSS. Oh, I literally just had that on my screen. What happened to it? Really, you're not gonna let me find it now? That was right in there.
I've seen people put WordPress inside Drupal before, and you're like, what's this doing here?
Yeah, no, this particular site, they actually use WordPress in some of the editing of content that gets published. I know, but this is part of this whole audit that we're going to be doing. And then somehow it gets published to a feed that Drupal then consumes. And the Drupal server is all headless on this one.
Yeah, you
so.
can. There's a default RSS feed, and then they just probably consume that default feed. But gosh, that's kind of a.
I mean, our WordPress is info.
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to. I've read a blog post from 6 years ago, and so I'm going to do it this way.
I swear I just had that CSS up on my screen just a second ago.
Well, you got Einheit there. I noticed that there's
Oh,
on the H4 down there. I guess that would be it. Can you just undo and see if it works?
well, I could, I guess. I want to make sure I'm actually in the right.
Because I'm pretty sure you were editing style.css.
Oh, I thought I was.
Yeah, you were in style.
If you command Z a bunch of things, will it jump you around? Go back. You did some editing, right? So hopefully it will.
There it is. Okay. I just am blind and cannot see. I'll go ahead and fix that line height that I screwed up. All right. So what did we do?
I believe that was uncommented for the first one, right?
Right. Before we go back and run that again, let's just quickly look at our screenshot directory. And we'll look at some of the
That
screenshots
is a
that got
big
generated.
folder.
All right, now you're going to see a couple of different sets because this got run twice. What I may do is just wipe all these out and reset them. So there you can see the screenshot of the footer that got grabbed. And then,
really cool.
yeah, there's your left sidebar.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah.
So you're essentially telling it what div to grab.
Uh-huh.
I constantly
We can
use
see it.
things like this. Someone, even though we're testing, actually use this.
Yep.
Screenshots.
And there's some of the full page stuff. There's some of the mouse
Grab all
over effects.
That'd be awesome.
And there's some of the screens with the mega menus open. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
So that's baseline screenshots. I'm going to clean that out and just see there's where it doesn't display the YouTube video screenshot. It tells you that you need a plugin. So and then there's one of the mega menus. Yeah, see that particular screenshot? See how the white text is indented? That's actually the change that I was trying to make. So,
Or you could comment out that and rerun it.
yeah. Get mine. Come on. There you go. All right, let's see. Test.
Actually use that for some
Let's just
tutorial things too.
I mean,
For some of our
erase
sites.
that whole folder. It'll
Grab
recreate it.
grab all the elements and
Just to have
And then
Yeah.
we'll run the test again.
and
And
I'm
create our
working on
baselines.
Style Guide now, online Style Guide, that they want me to do the screenshots of blocks and that.
that'd be a quick way to do it.
I'm gonna generate another set of baseline images so that we've got a clean set.
But you know,
So while that's generating, we'll look in here at these different
this
images.
needs to be
that are popping up.
first.
So now we've got one footer, and then there's right, I think that's the right content, and that's the left content box. And then there's my pre-content area. There's my menu in a closed state. There's my header. That's just a full page shot with no menus open. And then here's the pre-content boxes with the mouse over effects. And then there's full screenshot with the various menus open. And then there's a shot of just the menu. So you can see how if you've got a page that's particularly long, a full screenshot might get quite busy. So it's probably more useful if you can break it up. But the screenshot, I think the full page screenshots are useful because if your issue is that you're changing the position of elements on a page, you're not going to know that if you're snapshotting the elements. You're only going to know that if you snapshot the entire page. So there's the various mega menus and then screenshots with the mega menus open. Now we've got a clean set of baselines. We'll go into the CSS and try this again. And I'll keep my fingers crossed that it works this time. All right, so we've got margin in place. Let's just take that out. Let's see.
So when it does the comparison, is it just going through the image file and with a bit log comparison?
Yeah. It does pixel by pixel comparison.
Pixel by pixel. So you a shade off, or yeah, that's why you like your anti-aliasing.
Yeah, you can set and the authors actually built this in, and it's an adjustable figure that you can set where how much margin of error is acceptable.
Kind of like a fuzziness.
Because he's trying to figure out how to handle the anti-aliasing. So he's built that in, but you can turn it down to 0 if you want everything to be exactly the same, and then you won't have any test failures. Because what I picked up on that, I actually changed from like a shade of blue to a shade of blue with just a hint of purple, and it didn't pick it up. And so
Because you had a setting that was
it's
0.
because it was allowing so much of a percentage for error.
That's great to have that ability.
No, begging, please fail. It's not going to fail. It's not going to fail. Oh my God, really?
She can't fit.
You're hired.
All right.
Let's go buy lottery tickets right now.
Hey, we got a failure.
Never been so happy.
Okay. So there's an example of a failure. It's basically said this screenshot failed, and because the actual comparison failed, then it generated that image diff and stuck it in the folder, in the failures folder, so we can look at those image diffs.
What does it do if it hits a dubious?
If it hits a dubious.
It says 2 failed, 0 dubious, 0 skipped.
What causes a dubious?
I suppose it might be something in a
Iffy.
Yeah.
in the give or take percentage.
Yeah.
Like, it changed, but not enough.
It may be.
Funny.
I've actually generated those, and I don't remember what I did to generate dubious.
And that might be because of your settings.
mostly
It could be. Yeah.
Something mostly bad.
Yeah, it's so
It's
close.
so
that it's
broken.
Pictures of shifty-looking people.
So here we go. There's an image diff. So
Oh,
so the CSS change that I made was to shift that text over, but you'll see that what I unintentionally did was I shifted my buttons as well. So I can go back and but I didn't intend to do that, and I didn't catch that when I looked at it visually, but this caught it for me. So now when I look at my diff, I can see that I moved my paragraph, which was acceptable, but I also moved the buttons, which were not acceptable.
I
Yeah.
really.
That's cool.
So now I can go back and fix my CSS to make it more specific to get rid of this unintended consequence.
I'd be a bunch of failing on mine. I mean,
So it doesn't take away the visual aspect, but it makes it much easier, because flipping through and scanning some images is a heck of a lot easier than clicking through and looking at pages. So, and then see, there's a folder in here that's going to have those failures in it as well. Should be. Or maybe I just had them. I may have just had them leave. I may have changed the code to leave it in the folder and just give it a failure. Yeah, I did. To give it the fail.png extension. So that was my fail. So I had a full screenshot that failed because that's the full screenshot where the mega menu was open. And then I have the screenshot of the mega menu. So that's actually just one page that had a failure because of a change. But you can see by looking quickly at the diff that the unintended consequence there was remove the buttons as well as the text. So that gives us an opportunity to go back and fix it. And we can rewrite it.
Clients will never notice.
Yeah, right. Tell that to the folks at Spring CM.
I've got a client that comes in and goes, we don't like that blue, can you make it grey? Because it's really light blue. And it looked really pretty basic, it's 18% grey, and it's ugly as sin. And they're like, oh, it's purple now. No, it's grey. No, it's purple. What are you looking at it on? Oh, we've got this projector, the VGA. I'm like, please don't make colour choices based off that. I'm like, are you looking at like an $80 like display? Is that what you're looking at it on? It's just a really old projector in a room that can't do it right.
The worst monochrome.
And then making colour choices based off that. And I'm like, sit down at your Retina MacBook Pro. Yeah, and
So when I picked this particular item to make an adjustment to, and then when I had to go back and make it more specific, that's when I realized that this was actually a very poorly written theme because I have to use an int child selector to actually select that text in there so that I can indent it. But I've got the style rule here. And this is an example of how we're getting probably a little too specific. For, when you've got to start picking int child second to actually apply style rules, then you probably need to go back and revise your HTML to add some classes in there to make that selection easier. So I commented out the original there, and then I've uncommented the one that should just give us the text indentation for the paragraphs and leave the buttons alone. So we'll run that again. And what this will do now is it'll replace that second set of images with the new test images, and then also if the failed images that we're going to see, those will all get replaced as well.
so it overwrites them between tests.
Yeah.
That's probably a useful thing, or else you can end up
With tons of images.
Right,
Yeah.
so,
and not knowing which one was which as well. I'm like, oh, no.
Tom's done.
And so you see how long it's taken to generate about 20 images and run the image diff. So this is, you probably don't want to, test 500 pages.
Probably don't want to run it on our whole site.
And expect to get the test run in a reasonable amount of time. But if you're working on a particular page and you want to write some tests beforehand and then do your CSS changes and run it afterwards. This is also why I think that this full screen tests actually are useful, because it's a lot faster for me to go and grab a full screen shot than it is to grab the full screen shot and then a screenshot of 30 different elements on the page. And so what I'm recommending that we do at ProMet is that we run the test suite against full page screenshots, and then when we've got pages that have failures on them, run the specific tests for those pages for the elements, so that we can then can zoom in on that if the full page screenshot doesn't give us enough detail to see what happened. All right, so again, we had two images that failed, but when we go in and look at our image diffs, we should see that we should see, but we didn't see. This is another image caching issue. Because what should have happened is that our buttons no longer move. They did. Okay, it's image caching again. Damn it. I didn't think I was going to have to erase the browser cache, but it looks like I am. All right. Do y'all want me to erase it and run it again, or
I think we get the
okay?
idea.
Yeah, the gotcha with the browser cache is one that I had to really kind of work through and had to do a lot of Googling to find that. So beware of it. that it's there, and you may have to occasionally wipe it out so that you don't get the issue that we just ran into, where you run your test and all of a sudden you're not seeing the expected changes. So you need to just kind of wipe it out. So what we're doing is we're building into our test scripts to actually just erase that browser cache when we're done running a test suite, because there is no way to do it inside the test suite, so you have to physically remove the files. But to do that, you have to know where they're at.
Yeah, so just as quick, just to write a little script and clear it.
Yeah, what one of the changes that I'm working on is just tacking that onto the end of the test suite.
So when it's done, it
so
clears
that
the
when it's
cache.
done, it just clears the browser cache.
So Jamie's watching this, and so is some guy from Russia. Look at this. Let's notice, like, oh look. I have no idea how to read that.
Well,
but it's
alrighty
Cyrillic.
So, okay, questions?
Pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. I didn't really realize it did that.
Yeah. Now, Casper.js will do an entire set of user acceptance testing, just like the hat does, but we got the hat, so we're not using it for that. But you can write an entire set of user acceptance tests using Casper.js. The hat's a lot more user-friendly, I think. And there's also, somebody's got a plugin that will plug into Casper.js that will let you write those tests in Gherkin if you want to go that route. But we're just at ProMount, we're just looking at using it for this type of testing. So
That kind of visual testing is helpful for people who are not programmers and developers.
yes,
If you got to present the changes and say, this is what will happen when we do make these changes,
yeah. Well,
something visual is really great.
what we're planning on doing is writing these tests and then handing this off to our QA department. And so the gal that sits over there and takes, when we've closed a ticket, that takes the user the user cases and goes through and physically clicks through a site and makes sure that all
So
of
it
the
looks
user
like-
cases have been written. We're going to give her this, and then she'll run the test suite. And if the things fail, then she'll physically click in and see what's going on with those pages that caused them to fail. So the other thing that we're using this for, and this is where it's come in really handy, we've got a client that stands up their own production server. We don't have access to that. A lot of the clients that we manage their development, staging, and production servers. This one we don't. So we push code to a code repository, they pull it, and they run a build script and stand up the QA server and the production server off of these build scripts. And what we've had happening sometimes is that they're making changes and the build fails. And so because the build fails, then we've got pages that are not rendering correctly on the site. And so what we're doing is we're running the test suite on our internal staging server to grab all the baseline screenshots. And then when they stand up the QA server, we run the test against the QA server, compare it against the snapshot images we took on the staging server, and see if any of the images changed. So rather than just having to click through and look at 75 different pages to see if, which pages were impacted because the build failed.
It is
Because they
an
did
annoying
something that
part
they
of-
weren't supposed to do.
The single most annoying part.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to all work.
So it's helping us reduce those issues that we were having in those cases before it gets to production. It's cut it in half. So we were having issues where they would run the build and not catch the error that came up when the build ran, and then they would go ahead and push it to production, and then all of a sudden they call us. They go, this page is broken. And we're looking at staging, we're going, it was fine when we sent it to you. We don't know what happened. And then come to find out it's
Works on my box.
Yeah, exactly. It works on my, but they won't let us touch their QA or production server. It's behind a firewall, and their security guys are going, you cannot have access. So we're kind of like, well, you've kind of tied our hands. There's only so much we can do.
Hot fix, that's your problem.
Yeah. So it's like, stop that. Don't do that. So, all righty. So does anybody think that this would be a useful tool? I see
Pretty
lots.
much everything, yeah.
Yeah, I see lots of application for it. So, all right. Well, let's see.
Yeah, the testing tools, the BHAT, and all the tools that are coming out of testing that are basically technology agnostic to whatever you're using. It's going to be incredibly useful.
All right.
Super.
That's it.
You want to stop there? Click the stop on the.
Find the hangout window again. And
Okay.
start
It's a nice
recording.
looking theme.
It is.
Yeah, I picked it because it had lots of color contrast on it, and then we had the mouse over, and we had the mega menus, and then when I started digging into the CSS, I went, oh my god.
That's, that's typical front end designer thing. Oh, that's pretty.
Yeah,
It's all spit and string.
yeah.
It's lipstick on a pig, is what it is.
As long as it looks good.
All right.
Wait a second.
You know who the front end guy is.
Okay, where do I need to hit
You,
stop?
find the actual
There's
window
actually a
for
separate
the
window.
for the
Yeah, that's
hangout.
called
Ah,
Bill and Charles Fix It.
That one.
It's called Sean's
And
This
stop
lady's
podcast.
crazy. It'll never look